Hi guys. I wasn't sure if it was on yet, but it is. I don't think I'm gonna get Instagram to work today. So that is what it is. How is everybody's week going? A little earlier than usual for me, but uh, I have a busy day today, so this was the only time that I could really pull it off. But hopefully, it's going to work for everybody here. My only concern right now is going live because I'm not sure that that's working with regards to Instagram, but I'm sure that you guys are okay with that. So probably most of you guys are here from YouTube and or on the live stream on the other channels, but I'm gonna just pop this streaming key. It's a little kind of clunky with what is it called? Instagram. So hopefully this is going to work, but nope, it's not working. So the hell with Instagram. They are just always giving me trouble. So how's anybody want coaching? Like I have topics to speak to. My name is Kim and Curtin, the Wall Street Coach. I know I forget to say that sometimes. And I'm basically here to do some live coaching. You guys can put your comments in the chat box and then I can speak to it. But as I have told, those who are listening, that I do have specific topics I did want to talk about today. But first, I just want to thank Centerpoint for sponsoring our live stream. As you can see, their name is right up there. I got to meet Centerpoint's team, the entire team. I had already met their leadership before, but I got to spend last week, which was why I wasn't able to do the live last week with them in their San Diego office. And I just, can't say enough good things about them and how much they care for their clients. So I want to give you guys a link for you guys to check them out. It's a link that, is going to give you kind of, a special introduction for you to check them out. So let me just copy and paste that right out of the gate so that you guys can check it out. It's good to see you too, Tina. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad this week has been good for you. I can say the same. I've had a busy week because I was away last week. So, catch up whenever you travel and don't have your normal routine. You always have a full inbox. It gets kind of crazy. So there is my special link for Centerpoint. If you guys are looking at brokerage firms, I really hope that you'll consider them because of their customer service. They really see the customer, their traders as number one and treat them as such. So I am very happy to have their sponsorship for this live coaching. And any questions you guys have, just bring it to them. It's good to have you here, Mr. Dino Trader. T82, that was your handle yesterday. So yes, so guys, once a month, I go into Investors Underground and Turbo Sam hosts a room. He calls it a midweek study session. And I do live coaching there, but on camera. So I did this yesterday and T82 was, I believe you were there yesterday, right? You're sometimes the handles start to look a little bit the same. So anyway, I hope I'm not mixing you up, Mr. Dino. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. As you guys know, I do a lot of live coaching here, but it's all through chat. So I don't get to see the faces. Obviously, the faces sometimes are easier. Good. Okay. I was just making sure I was correct. All right. So if you do still want more coaching, put specifically what you want me to coach you on today, even though I remember yesterday, just for everybody to have context, what's going on for you, because ultimately I want everybody in this conversation to walk away with benefit for themselves and their own trading. So again, anybody that's here, we have, a nice group of people, 33 people right now. Please put where you're challenged in your coaching, in your trading. And then I also want you to think about, a brag that you might be able to share here with those who are going to clap for you and be happy for you. I find traders, if they're too isolated, don't always have the ability to kind of get the kudos, from your peers and colleagues. Like you guys need that to survive the distance. Also, sometimes you just need to vent and bitch. So again, if you need to bitch or vent, and you want to brag, please feel free. Both of these are just expressions of being human. And I just feel this is so important for you guys to have the opportunity to kind of get it off your chest. So some of the things that I said I would speak to today was, at least just a few minutes ago, the tweet that I put out there, post I put out there, was about how important it is for traders to understand what their attachment style is. And so what I want to do is have you guys be sure to go to Diane Poole Heller's website. I'm getting the link for everybody right now. And she is basically a trauma and attachment style specialist. So I'm going to pop this here in the chat box if I have this right here. Let's just see here. All right, let me get this done here. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so the center of Restream. Strange that Restream just posted my post in addition to my own. So this link, guys, is a link specific to where you can take an attachment style quiz. Diane Poole Heller is a therapist who specializes in attachment style. She has a number of books. She does a number of courses specific to attachment style. And one of the things that I just, want you guys to realize is that attachment style, we don't have one attachment style. We have multiple styles. Hopefully, I would presume the majority of people here probably have, a good amount of secure attachment. And yet, you're going to have these other styles like anxious, like avoidant, and that is going to influence your trading, because any relationship you have in your life, including the one with yourself, is going to be informed by her attachment style. So Eric is saying that, yes, you have secure attachment, but you struggle with selling before the breakout 90% of the time. Some security, that is. So Eric, I hear that secure attachment is the predominant style, but what I would spend your time kind of considering is whatever the next style is, whatever score you got the highest, second to secure, look at that. And then the next one, some people have 3 styles, some people have 4 styles. So I would take a look, maybe even Diane's book, which speaks specifically to attachment style. And I would watch my conversation, the YouTube conversation I had with Allison Halquest. We specifically talked in that podcast episode about traders' attachment style and how we see that play out in one's trading. So, all right, so I'm going to get to everybody's questions here. So Mr. Dino says, I wouldn't mind continuing yesterday's session to fix the issue of getting over that friend's huge loss. Yes. So, Mr. Dino, here's the thing. I'm going to talk about it specifically because I do think it's just so powerful. And I just want to make sure you're cool with this, that you would be willing to still come back for next month's IU, because I would like to do it with you in person, take you into this, but I'm going to still reference that right now. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to first talk about that, Mr. Dino, and then Timo, do you heal from your mother hating you by loving her? That's a really loaded question, Timo, and the short answer is I'm going to say no. There's more to that than just that, but the quick answer is no. The way you heal from a mother hating you is to learn how to love yourself. So loving her and loving anybody for that matter can only come after we learn how to love ourselves. And in my experience, at least personally, for the journey I've had and for the, very compromised mother my mother was, my ability to, she's been dead for 20 years, even my ability to have any sort of relationship with her on the other side. She's dead 20 years. And it's taken me, honestly, almost 20 years to even be able to be civil to her, so to speak, on the other side, or engage at all with the memories of her or dynamic of her. The key whenever we don't have a mom who really loves us and is able to connect with us and attach to us is going to be first us healing and working on the experience internally that we're going to inevitably have, that we are worthy, that we are somehow unworthy. So I would say do all of your time. Here's a book by Marissa Peer called I Am Enough. That would be the first place I would start. You work on the relationship with yourself. You work on healing and loving you. Often when we have a parent that isn't able to love us, what's happening usually is we are becoming codependent. We are focused on their emotions, their feelings instead of our own. It's just inevitable because as kids, we can't survive without those parents. And so we have a tendency to numb ourselves off from our feelings, numb ourselves off from our needs, and just focus on them. Because in our childhood, if we keep them happy, we get to stay and get fed, right? So that becomes survival. All right, there's a lot of questions here. Eric says avoidance. So I would do some work on avoidant. Look on Diane Poolheller's website, Eric, at the tendencies of avoidant and look for the patterns that you're repeating and you're treating based on that. Ernie already did avoidant too. So definitely watch, guys, the Allison Halquest episode on my podcast. I think it's called Secure Attachment. If anybody's able to check out my YouTube and look up the Allison Halquest and get us the link, please put it in the chat box. Mr. Dino says, yes, good. I'm so glad. All right, 100% says dismissive avoidant here. Scarcity mindset for emotional neglectful parents. I feel like treating is helping me face these behaviors. And I have to admit, it's a long road. It's a long road for everybody, 100%. Just know that. It's a long road for all of us. Like very few people, even with parents who were not, emotional neglect happens even if we have parents that wish they weren't, right? If parents are sick, if parents have financial difficulties, if our parents had to caretake for their parents, if there was things happening, any kind of abuse or neglect happening in your parents' childhood for them, their capacity to be a contribution to us, to attach to us in a healthy manner, all of it's going to be compromised. So even if you didn't have a mentally ill parent, even if they didn't have borderline, even if they weren't just, psychopaths, you're still potentially not going to have had a really secure attachment built with them based on the different challenges they may have had. So the key here is for you to realize, look at all the people that are speaking to this right now in the chat, right? I speak to it. Like, this is so much more common, guys, than you realize, that your attachment style is somewhat, compromised. And as common as this is, here's the other thing. Diane says this all the time. We are built for wholeness. Even with the most fucked up things happening to us, excuse my French, We are so incredible because our whole system is going to seek wholeness. So do the work on yourself because it's going to matter. It's going to have an impact. It might be a long road, but like, what the hell else are we here for? Like, we're here to learn what we need to learn. And then we're here to kind of help ourselves transcend all the things that potentially have caused us. And that's what we're all on it together. So keep that in mind. And that's why I do these, for people to see, oh, look, there's other traders struggling with this too. I'm not the only one. People aren't going on Twitter to talk about how shitty their day was. They're not showing us pictures on Instagram of the mascara running down their face, crying on the bathroom floor. But that shit's happening for everybody. So don't think you are alone. That is the heart of the matter. All right, Mr. Dino, I'm going to get to you next. 100% also asking for help is a huge issue for you. Well, it makes sense, right? Why would you be afraid to ask for help? Well, every time you potentially did that in your childhood, you were looked at like you were crazy, or they made fun of you, or they give you shit. Like, of course you would make sense that you would potentially have difficulty asking for help. So first, guys, you want to give yourself empathy. You want to be like, holy crap, how have I survived this long without ever asking for help? Good job me that I've somehow made it through. But that shit is costing me now. I better knock it off. If I don't start to ask for help and go towards the discomfort of that, then I am going to pay a significant price. Maybe with the capital in your trading account, maybe in personal relationships, maybe just with being miserable. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So the point is, in Drama of the Gifted Child, another book I'm going to mention by Alice Miller, she speaks at length that we are gifted as children. The drama of our childhood, right, is such that we quickly, children are so gifted to know, I better adapt. I better sculpt myself. I better start to operate a certain way so I can stay safe here. And these people will feed me and they will clothe me and keep a roof above my head. But here's the thing. At some point, we leave. And it's then that we often don't even notice that we have all these stories and behaviors that we're operating from. And that is what I'm trying to suggest to you guys. You have to see, holy crap, wait a minute. I don't have to act like that anymore. I don't have to live like that anymore. Yes, your whole central nervous system is sort of pre-programmed to do that. But just like you can tighten up a flabby belly, you go to the gym, you don't do 1,000 crunches, you do 10. And then you go back the next week and maybe do 15 or 20. You start to build that muscle. And that's what I want everybody here to do. All right, so let's get to Mr. Dino. So, and then I have so many questions here. I promise I'll get to all of them. But Mr. Dino, let's talk a little bit. I hope it's okay. I'm going to share a little bit of context for everybody who's here. Because I want everybody to get a sense of what I'm talking about. So one of the conversations brought up yesterday was in reference to this trader having watched a colleague, a friend, blow up in the millions of dollars their trading account. And that I spoke to him about being a trauma because of that experience. As you can imagine, he has that in the background. I am suggesting that is in the background of how he is trading now. And so my recommendation is for him to step into what is my practice number 2, which is emotional non-resistance. And this is a technique that I've shared with you guys before, where we absolutely take a kind of metaphoric elevator from our head down into our body to serve what comes up. So that's the thing that I want to do, Mr. Dino, with you next month in the Investors Underground, Sam's room, the midweek study session, because I'm going to literally walk you through. But here is a way to prepare for that. And I would like everybody to consider this too, if you're willing to. I want you to go to my YouTube channel and watch the conversation I have with Raphael Kushner. Raphael was my coach for many, 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 many years. He is the one who first exposed me to somatic work. Somatic just means the body. The way we heal trauma is through the experience in our body. Usually, what happens when we have a trauma is that the feelings and the emotions get trapped inside of us, and they're sort of skipping like a record. I don't know, you guys may not even know what a record is, but records back in the day could have a scratch on it. That's how we played our music, and it could skip sometimes because of the scratch. That sometimes happens to us because we don't get the opportunity after a trauma, after a harrowing situation, to fully process it. The thing that I want to give you as an example is an earworm. If you've ever heard part of, let's say, a Britney Spears song, and you're like, damn it, I can't get that out of my head. What's happening? Why do you keep hearing that verse over and over again? Because your brain and your being is trying to complete the cycle. It's trying to finish the song. It's trying to finish the experience, if the experience for you was traumatic. And that is the body's way of trying to process it so we can go forward. But what happens is most of us only superficially feel things. We don't actually go through the entire dynamic of what it actually is doing to us, because it's scary too. Because as soon as we start to feel those feelings, we start to have resistance. We start to go into a contraction. The other teacher that I haven't had on my podcast yet, but is one of my, most life-changing books, is by Peter Levine, Dr. Peter Levine, who also is a somatic specialist. There's a lot of talks of his out there online. His book is Waking the Tiger. That book and Raphael's practice, those were the two big game changers for me. Lucky for me, I got exposed to that work 20 years ago, but because of my own trauma and the stuff that I had gone through in my childhood, that I had done so much therapy. I've shared that with you guys before. I hired somebody, my parents did for me at 10 years old, the therapist. I've worked with so many coaches, but the somatic work was when I really started to have traction. I can't recommend it enough. So, Mr. Dino, my suggestion to you is go watch the Raphael Kushner interview. And after you watch that interview, then you'll be kind of prepared for what we're going to do in the next session. The key is, and this is a Joseph Campbell quote, the mythologist, who I also quote from a lot. He says, the cave you feared to enter is where the treasure is. So for Mr. Dino, part of what I suspect in the few minutes of our coaching yesterday is, and this I have no doubt impacts countless traders, is even if you yourself didn't have a huge loss, maybe you did, but even if you are very close friends with somebody or witness somebody completely blow up with huge amount of money, like this was a $5 million blow up. That's fucking scary as hell. Your whole central nervous system is going to be on red alert to even be adjacent to that kind of loss. And it's understandable that if it hasn't been healed yet, if it hasn't fully processed yet, is going to be sort of like a shadow over all of what you do as a trader. So the key here is to be able to start to tune in, and maybe that's something you can do too, Mr. Tino, is before next month, start to track as you trade, when you go trade. I want you to start to track how it shows up. When that thought, because you said that thought repeats itself, when that thought shows up, what are the variables? Are those the days you're tired? Are those the days you didn't have a good conversation with a friend or a partner? Like, look for all of the factors that potentially contribute to the days and the times when that fear kind of comes back up to the surface. That's what I'd like you to do. All right, let me look at some of these other questions. Guys, I just stopped looking at the chat because I couldn't look at them and talk at the same time. I can multitask, but only so much. All right, let's see here. Tina, a thing that is troubling my trading is that every time my account reaches profitability, I do something to cause catastrophe loss. Brag just because profitable on the year. Great job on that, Brag, Tina, that you're profitable on the year. I'm very proud of you. Tina, if I'm not mistaken, I think we talked about this before, that when you reach profitability, that loss happens. Now, it could be a couple of things, right? This is obviously some sort of self-sabotage, but what is that self-sabotage? That's what you want to get curious about. Remember too, Tina, to not judge yourself for this, right? If that is happening, I want you to have a lot of empathy that it's happening. That sucks, right? It's hard to go through. It's got to be driving you crazy. Like, what the hell? What is going on? But I want you to be nice to yourself, because what happens is if you get really upset with yourself, really angry, you're going into a contraction. You're going to have a shortness of breath. Your vision is going to contract. Everything's going to kind of get tight. You are not going to be able to really discover much in that contracted judgmental state with even yourself. So the key here is to start to step into neutrality. I want you to start to look at this like you're a detective. Hercule Poirot, what is underneath this? How fascinating. Every time I have profitability, I seem to have a loss. Isn't that a coincidence? Do you hear my tone of voice? Do you hear my playfulness with the Hercule Poirot? Like, go into this like a kid. When we're kids, before we get kind of screwed up, right? What happens? We just look at everything with curiosity. When we fall down, we don't judge it. We just get back up. That's how I want you to approach this, team. I want you to start to look at what could be afoot. Some of the things I think I've mentioned here before could be your relationship to money. And that's one of the topics I said I would talk about today. And so here is one of the links I want to share with you guys. Again, I'm not looking at everybody's chat right now because I cannot do too much at once, but I'm going to put it in the chat box. This is the moneyharmony.com. I don't know if you did do this yet, but that's what I would say. Let's have you look at right now. I'd like you to take a look at what your relationship to money is. And here's the other thing, Tina, to potentially look at. I would look at your attachment style, because sometimes if we haven't had as much secure attachment as is ideal, what can start to be uncomfortable, and Eric, I'm going to say this to you too, is getting attention is potentially a threat. Succeeding is potentially a threat. Having good stuff happening is potentially scary. Why? Because when you have adapted to crap happening all the time to you, when you've adapted to being disappointed, when you've adapted to not being in the spotlight, when you start to get the spotlight, when you start to be noticed, when you start to see other people perhaps be a little jealous of you, all of the bells and whistles in your nervous system get on red alert. That sense of things are good, if things are going well, sometimes that can freak us out, because what happens is we're so used to being hyper vigilant to protect ourselves, right, from the shit that's going to go down, that as soon as things are good, I know this is definitely something I have to still be mindful of. There's a part of me that's like, things are too good. Shit, what shoe is going to drop? What curveball is going to come in from the sidelines that I don't even know is coming, right? Because that sense of being comfortable with safety, with profitability, with success is still not what I'm used to, right? Because of my crazy childhood. So when I start to get that, I'm just like, come on, something's behind the door, someplace ready to jump out at me. So think about that, Tina. Maybe that's the case for you. Maybe it isn't. But I want you to start to get curious. If that resonates with you, then consider, Maybe it's me getting comfortable with good things. Maybe it's me getting comfortable with the spotlight. I'll share a story about that spotlight with all of you guys, but also the money, right? Because I talked about that. So I put in the chat box, themoneyharmony.com. That is just a simple, very simple. It's free, but it's a good, quick indicator. The other book I talked about recently was Jared Dillion's book. I'm looking for it. It's on my shelf over there. No worries. My bookshelf is in my office on that side of the room. No worries. It's a great book. He talks about being a cheap F, and he talks about being a high roller, and how both of those are kind of two sides of the same coin, but one is expressed through being cheap and always hoarding, and the other one is a high roller, a person who spends irresponsibly, because for them that sense of identity is tied up in what they spend. All right, so let me see here for some more questions. I hope that helps, Tina. 100% said I had breakfast with Marissa Peer and her husband. She was really nice. I'm so glad to hear that. Sometimes these people that, you put up on a pedestal don't turn out to be nice. They say never meet your idols. I've met a few of them and they were disappointing, but I won't say who those are. But I'm so glad Marissa Peer was nice. I really love her. I love her stuff. I love her book. In her book, I Am Enough, she talks about a specific mantra, which is putting your hand on your chest and saying these words. Here, I'm going to say it now for you guys. And if you guys are in a position to, as long as you're not driving, put one of your hands on your chest and close your eyes and do this with me. This is from Marissa Peer's book, I Am Enough. Here is her mantra. I am enough. I have always been enough. I will always be enough. And what her recommendation is that you start to say that to yourself multiple times a day. In the morning, you say it 10 or 20 times. Maybe you do it at night. You find what works for you. But here's the thing, guys. When you have that phrase, say that phrase to yourself, you want to feel it. Really feel it. There's times when I first started doing that. I think I read her book, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember. But I got very emotional. It was really hard for me to say that in the beginning. So I just want to say to you, be gentle with yourself. It might be hard for you to do that practice, but start baby steps. Maybe you say it once and can barely get through it. Maybe you start to build it up. The next layer, which I don't remember if she tells us to do this or not, but I know I did it, is eventually, once you are able to get through that without feeling like you want to throw up or cry, then you want to start to say that to yourself in the mirror. And that's, the heart of what she's trying to say, is that how we start to see ourselves in the mirror literally is going to impact our system. Okay, Cav on trade. Sorry it took me so long to get to you, but I'm here now. Discipline issues here. When I trade my system, I'm fine, but I'm constantly putting on trades just to trade. Been sideways for 2 months due to repeated unnecessary losses. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind, Cav Trades, I hope you're still here, is that you possibly aren't getting some of your basic needs met. So I am going to give you guys, hold on, let me get that link for you. This is my universal, this is not my universal, it's my version of the universal needs list, but the universal needs list was created by Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of NVC, nonviolent communication. So Kavon, I want you to go and get this needs list. And the reason I want you to get that needs list is because it's possible that you are not getting some of your needs met. And that is why you are going and putting on trades just to trade, right? Sometimes, and only you are going to be able to answer this, or at least do an inquiry for this. Sometimes what happens, and you guys know I have to have very unusual assessment. I'm, constantly referencing it because it's a life-changing assessment. This is one does have to pay for. I have a link here. I'm going to put it up. It's called the Trader Positioning Index. So let me just copy this and put this here. So let me just say this, Kevin. Here's the thing. One of the things that has shown up when I've done the trader positioning index for other traders is sometimes the trader is so incredibly strategic, so incredibly good at solving complex things that what happens is when they're trading, they're bored. They don't feel challenged. Like if you have a strategy and another trader has a strategy that like you can do with one hand tied behind your back, sometimes what happens is a trader's sitting there and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go look for another trade because I'm bored. So instead, what I would like you to do is get a Rubik's Cube or perhaps play chess with somebody while you're sitting there. If you even have to sit there, it could be, Kevin, that you're at your trading desk too much. If your trading system is working and you're making what you need to, it could be that your trading day should end as soon as that profit's made and get the hell away from your trading desk. That is going to take discipline, but you've got to ask yourself, do you want to keep losing the profits your strategy is making? And if not, then you have to take a hard look. There's a lot of times where the over trading is happening simply because you don't have yourselves all plugged into something else to do. And you're probably trying to get a need met too, right? For community. You want to be in community. You want to be having something to say in your chat room or your Discord room. You want to look like you're, connected with those who are trading. But that is costing you. You guys, you can't do it. You just can't do it. Get your need for connection met. That's why I want you to look at the needs list, Kevin. I want you to look at that, because I want you to identify what are the needs you're not getting met. And likely when you go to overtrade, why you're doing that is you're trying to get whatever those needs are met by the market, met by staying too long and overtrading. All right, let's see some of these other questions. I hope that helps. Tina, then how do we combat that? I'm sorry, Tina, now I'm not sure what that's referencing, so tell me if you can. All I can think is don't do something stupid. Yeah, so you don't want to talk like that. That is your gremlin, Tina. Whenever you hear that kind of internal quote, don't do something stupid, that is your inner gremlin. You got to probably find a way to lessen the volume on that inner critic, because that is not going to serve you. To ever reference ourselves as stupid is just not going to help us move forward. All right. Inner child spanking show up. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of times where that kind of self-talk is us repeating how we were treated or how we treated ourselves to navigate that childhood. And so what I want you guys to see is that cost is going to only be stopped if you redesign the relationship you have with yourself. And that is, worth me speaking once again to Taming Your Inner Gremlin by Rick Carson. Rick was also on my podcast. Go look at that episode. Rick Carson, he talked at length about that inner critic, inner gremlin, inner saboteur. These gremlins, guys, are so important for you to identify. That was the first work that I did when my coach training began, over 20 years ago. We had to do so much work about understanding our inner critic, inner saboteur, because that is likely part of what informs any of the self-sabotage we all open up for ourselves, because that inner critic is wanting us to stay in a very small space, and it makes us afraid to go outside of it. That phrase, I brought this up yesterday, the devil is more comfortable than the devil you don't know. So for us to stick with what we know, the discomfort even of it, at least it's familiar. So we have a tendency to stay there too long. All right, Tina was saying that was a good book. I'm not sure which one it is. Probably Jared Dillion's. I'm not sure. Marsory, is that how I say it? Marsory. Okay, Kim, questions are so good and profound. Another issue is being frozen, like disassociated after serious trauma. Can you write down the name of the two people you've mentioned? Yes. So Diane Poole Heller, she's actually was one of her teachers was Dr. Peter Levine. And Peter Levine, his book is called Waking the Tiger. So let's just, Marjorie, talk for a minute. I'm glad the questions are serving you. The frozen state, let's definitely talk about that. And this, I have no doubt, potentially can happen to traders too, when there's a lot of money at stake and you're out of your comfort zone with a trade. Let me just take a sip of my iced tea here. Okay, Levine talks about this frozen state. And he talks about a couple of things. I'm going to speak to two of them. First, introduction to Waking the Tiger, which is a book, Marjorie, that I would definitely recommend to you, is him speaking about how if an antelope, for example, is running from a lion's chase, right? And this is part of what he's speaking to in Waking the Tiger, is that animals are in a life and death situation, often multiple times a day, and yet they don't have trauma. Have you ever thought about that, guys? Like, we're not facing, like, it may physically in your nervous system feel like a life and death situation in your trading account. And so that does, in a sense, kind of count. But you got to realize, like, animals are literally in a life and death situation multiple times a day. And the reason Levine teaches us they don't have trauma is because after that encounter and before they will return to the herd, they will find a place that's private, like behind the bush, and they will shake a tremor out all of that experience. They will literally physically tremble, and shake it off for as long as it takes. Sometimes it takes a while because it was a very near death encounter. So think about us as people, guys. How many times have you been taught when you go through a trauma that you got to go physically shake and tremor it out? Never. What are we taught? We're taught to get over it. We're given a drink. We're given a Xanax, or pot, or name your number of choice, right? This is part of what Levine is trying to teach us, as is Raphael Kushner. They're trying to teach us that until this body of ours fully has the ability to process out whatever we've gone through, we are going to find ourselves in a potential frozen state. We are going to find ourselves potentially, disconnected from what is actually happening, and hiccuping, like have this constant skipping of an experience. And that's part of what I was saying to you, Mr. Dino, if you're still here, and to anybody listening to that. If you haven't fully felt the trauma of that observation of that colleague of yours blowing up his account, what's happening is that is showing back up, but in a superficial sort of way, because the depth of it you have yet to fully feel. And it's not like maybe you could have in that moment. And here's the example that I wanted to speak to, that Levine, I don't know if Levine has a couple of books, but he has a follow-up to Waking the Tiger. So this story could be in the follow-up, I can't remember. But in that second book, I think, of his, he talks about getting hit by a car. He's walking through a pedestrian crosswalk. And this is what's happening, right? He's remembering back as he's telling us the story in the book. But what he realized is that even before his conscious brain saw the incoming car, right? He didn't even register the incoming car, but his hand did. His hand actually started to go up like this. That's what's so phenomenal about this body of ours, guys. Even before conscious thought, I'm about to get hit by a car, the body is trying to protect itself. So this is what happened. This is such a fascinating story. His hand freezes there. He's on the ground. He gets hit by the car, flies off the ground, lands on the floor. The driver stops. People come to him, and two people come up to him to help him. And his hand is sort of still in that kind of a position, right? Obviously, he got hit by the car, so it moved. But this is what he tells us. His hand wanted to finish the revolution of its movement, right? Because think about it. You're about to get hit by a car, right? Your hand comes up like this. And what does that hand organically want to do? It wants to finish, right? It wants to protect you from that car. But it got interrupted, right? So in the middle of this, one of the people who stopped to help him holds his hand down, stops his hand, because the guy, he thinks he's helping him. Whatever we're told about an accident, you got to keep things still, right? So that guy thinks he's helping him, so he's holding his hand down. Now his hand is pushing because it wants to finish that. By the grace of God, the woman, whoever this woman was that was there, she saw that and she told that guy. And Levine was in shock, couldn't speak, but he could feel it. The woman says, let his hand go. Let it go. Thank God the man listened. And Levine's hand finished its resolution, finished the revolution of that. Levine speaks in the book. Had that not happened, he would have had an injury to that arm. I mean, obviously got hit by a car. He's got a lot of injury, but who the hell needs another one? That is the body finishing its cycle. He didn't have that arm injured like it could have been because his body, he was able to finish it. So that's what Levine's work, Raphael Kushner's work is all about. And my work now, I incorporate this and I call it emotional non-resistance, because what I've seen is that most of us haven't been taught how to fully feel, how to fully process. And until we do, we're sort of carrying like a ball and chain with us from those past traumatic events. And traumatic events, guys, let me just say this, not everything is a trauma. But there are situations, just like maybe being separated from your parents when you're very young, a bad, experience with a doctor, with dental work. There are things where if we feel powerless and our body is not able to fully process it, it can become lodged and trapped in our body. And Gabor Mate talks about this as well in his book. He has a new book out whose title I can't remember. I think it's called The Myth of Normal. That's what it's called. Check that book out too. All right, that was a long stretch. I hope that was okay for you, Marisuri. I hope that worked. Ernie says, what is the common mistake avoidant attachment people do with trading? Great question. So let's go back to the concept of avoidant, right? What an avoidant struggles with is the fear that they will be rejected, right? That they will not experience true connection. And if you are avoiding connection because you're afraid you're going to be rejected, think about it as a trader. How could that potentially impact you as a trader, right? It's possible you are going to just kind of talk yourself out of a trade, even though the trade hasn't been proven. So here's what I would say, Ernie, take a look at the interview I had with Allison Halquest, because we do go into avoidant attachment style. But let me know if you have a follow-up question. I'm trying to get through all the questions so I can catch up to current time. Hopefully that helps. Also, with regards to what Tina spoke to, and somebody else spoke to it too, that sense of self-sabotage can also come up with an avoidant. Also, an avoidant is not comfortable with conflict, right? An avoidant will more likely ghost somebody because they don't want to have a difficult conversation. Think about how many times you guys have to be in a difficult conversation with yourself, with your trade, with the market, right? If those could be way more uncomfortable for a trader than they actually need to be, until that avoidant attachment style starts to be addressed, starts to be healed. It's potentially going to cause a lot more discomfort, loss for an avoidant than it would for somebody who is not as avoidant. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, Tina says, okay, I just got that. Girl Trader thinks. Kim Kraz says, I also like Happy Money. Yes, that was a great book, Kraz. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that is a terrific book too. And the author of Happy Money, whose name escapes me right now, he has a course in Mind Valley that should be very good. I didn't do his course. I think I did a couple of webinars with the author of Happy Money, and I liked him a lot. And he's very spiritual, which surprised me. I didn't expect that, but I really did like him. And that book is about a relationship to money. There's so many books out there. I would recommend so many. Find the ones that resonate with you. I speak about them all the time. All right, Kushner interview. Okay, good. You're gonna watch that. It's Kushner is Cushner, Raphael Kushner. Okay, let's see here. Routines can be boring. Don't trade when bored. Yes, routines can be boring, Eric, but actually, I think you want to be a trader who is trading when you're bored. Here's the thing, and this, I would take a look at too, Eric, for yourself. A lot of the traders who speak, after decades of trading, they speak, and I'm positive Peter Brand speaks about this too, who's in Jack Schwager's Unknown Market Wizard books. If you are getting a hit off of your trading, I would suspect that being bored with trades is actually a healthier place to be because you're in neutrality. If you're experiencing highs and lows all day long, you are not going to be able to be seeing what's in front of you neutrally. You are going in for the dopamine hits. So I don't know that I agree with you there, Eric, that you shouldn't trade when you're bored. I would say ultimately, you want to have such a strategy that, in a way, you are bored because you have it so locked in, because your emotions, when they are in charge of you as a trader, you are so on the edge of a cliff. And you got to ask yourself, is that what trading gives you? If trading is constantly giving you this kind of dopamine hit, then you are probably not trading. You are going in there to get your dopamine hit. And that is not the place you want to get a dopamine hit. It's going to cost you way, way more than you want to. All right, Gina says, getting up and moving around really helped me with overtrading. That's great news, Tina. I'm so proud of you that you did that. Tina, The Drama, The Gifted Child. That was a good book. Yes, it was, Tina. I'm so glad you read it. I'm glad you found it that way. All right, 100%. There's good videos on the shaking on YouTube. Excellent, 100%. I'm glad to hear that. Also, one of the things that is spoken about is a particular board. They also have this, I have one. It's like something that actually is a lot of older Asian, grandmas have this thing. It's kind of like a machine that you lay your ankles or calves in, and it moves your body like this. It's usually a 10-minute where you lay on the floor, you put your legs and the bottom of your calves and ankles on top of this device, and you'll have your legs being shaken for a particular period of time. And that is also, especially if you're feeling really triggered, if some really hard to be with things happen that day, I would recommend, I think it's $45 on Amazon, or $50, something crazy cheap. So again, the body needs to discharge. I don't know if you guys remember this is quite a few years ago, but we had a false alarm about an incoming missile here to Hawaii. And I wouldn't have been surprised if it was true, because at the time our president was kind of taunting the North Korea leader. And I thought, well, okay, maybe this is it, right? I really thought it could be it. And because we didn't find out for, I don't know how long it was 18 minutes, I think we were left not knowing if this incoming missile, because it said in our, everybody got the thing on the phone that said, this is not a drill. I was like, oh shit, we're so screwed. It was very traumatic. And for me, it happened, I think it was 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that, right? In that approximate time. after obviously we found out that it was false, I found myself all the way until like, nighttime. Uh, I had like this hyper kind of like as if I had adrenaline. The adrenaline ran all day. And the only way I was able to kind of finally cope with it was I'm on the second floor. I just started to keep running up and down my stairs. I needed to, and I knew, thank God, because of Levine's work, I needed to discharge that adrenaline because my body had gone into flight because of thinking I was going to die with an incoming missile. So that I did that to the point of exhaustion because it allowed me to discharge. So there's lots of things you guys can do if you don't get that little machine. Yeah, if frozen, just let it go. If only it was that easy. I know Elsa thinks it is that easy. All right, Marsuri, I hope I'm saying your name right. Indeed, I was broken, crushed in a car accident. Jesus, I'm so sorry that happened to you. That is a really, really hard thing to go through, Marsuri. And I'm glad you're going to check that book out. Yes, the not having judgment with ourselves is a huge part of our ability to really step into healing. And that, guys, is why I'm a coach, right? My own journey, like I've been at this for like decades, right? To try to heal and unpack the shit that I've navigated. And all of these are tools that all the tools I advocate to you guys, all the tools that I speak to, these are tools that absolutely changed my life. They healed me. They helped me not be that victim, that person who was just so twisted up. So I get emotional saying this, but these are tools that helped me. And I was such a seeker for these tools. And I feel so blessed and so much grace that I found, the teachers that I found, the coaches that I found, the books that I found. Those are the things that absolutely changed my life. And that is why I do this. I do this as a coach, guys, because this shit works. And I want it to work for you guys, because when you have gone through anything challenging, ultimately, if you get the right tools, you can find your way up and out of that hole. And that's, I feel like I've been such like a collector of these tools and these practices. Like, what am I going to do? Keep them in my garage? I got to share them, because the more people that know about them, the better. And then it facilitates healing. It facilitates wholeness. It facilitates more joy, right? And I think all of us could use a little bit more of that. All right, let's see. Mr. Dino says, "Oh, wow, I have that massage device. Should use it." Yes, I would use it. I'm so glad you have that device. Mr. Dino, all right, I'm trying to look at the other messages past yours. Maybe that's it. Maybe have I caught up, guys? 10:55. Yeah, I think I caught up in the chat box. Oh my God, I felt overwhelmed with how many were in the chat box. Yeah, so if you have that massage device, Mr. Dino, I would use it, and possibly just get used to using it. If it's that thing, that you lay your feet on, but also possibly use that if you're able to kind of take yourself back to that moment when you were witnessing a colleague account blow up. So here's what I will say for you, Mr. Dino, and everybody here. The practice of being with and surfing your emotions starts with this. You want to see a metaphoric elevator in your head. You want to take that elevator down from your head into your body. What you're trying to do is bring your attention out of your thinking mind, right? Out of your logical brain. It's beautiful. We love our beautiful logical brain. I'm not making it wrong, but it is just part of the communication devices that we have access to. And this is what I talked about too, when I talked about George Soros this week in one of my shorts. George Soros specifically talks about his being so in tune to the physicality of his body that his body tells him when he needs to be paying attention to something in the markets. And when you listen to the story about his back, and you listen to the stories about the biggest trade in the history of trading, which was when I think it was during it was the European, I think was it the European Bank with going over changing, currency. I can't remember the specifics of that trade. You guys probably remember the details more than me, but he had a physical experience that contributed to, look, the man's a genius. I'm not telling you guys like, oh, it's just your body's going to tell you how to trade. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, yes, you have to do the homework. Yes, you have to get educated. Yes, you have to have pattern recognition. Yes, you have to have screen time. Yes, you have to have a strategy that's proven. And your body is filled with knowing. It has the ability to pick up on subtleties and nuances, but infrequently for all of us, are we in tune to it? Even with the concept of people, even with the concept of things where like, I just have this sensation, and then the call comes from the person you were thinking about. Being the pound. Yes, the pound. Thank you, Tom. It was the British pound. So look up that story about George Soros and how he listens to his body. And look, if anybody here has gone through trauma, if anybody here, again, in their childhood, had to disconnect themselves to their feelings, had to disconnect themselves to their pain, for people who are physically abused, for people who are sexually abused, you got to know that the way those people are going to cope is they have to kind of come up and out of their physical body so they don't experience the pain. Often that is part of the healing process. The healing process is the willingness to go into that body. But if being in your body, especially when you were young, was potentially dangerous for you, would have you feel things, it is understandable that many of us will numb ourselves off from our body. And that's what I see a lot of times happens for traders. They have kind of seen the body as an enemy of themselves, as something not trustworthy. But that usually is because it's an old holdover from the past. When I first started to do the somatic work for my own journey, what I noticed was that to tune into the physical sensation, to tune into what was happening down here for me, was very difficult. I couldn't tune into it. I couldn't kind of connect to my body because I had climbed sort of up and out of my body, gone into my logical brain to cope with my needs never getting met as a child. My needs were not inquired about. My needs were not tended to. The attunement of having your caretakers, see what you need, that didn't happen for me. So you can't continuously not have your needs met, right? And not have to cut yourself off from that discomfort. If you guys look at that needs list, what you'll discover is the needs list speaks to the feelings that we have when our needs aren't met. You can only endure frustration, anger, depression, sadness, apathy, grief. You can only survive that for so long before you cut yourself off from feeling, before you numb yourself out. And that's what I want you guys to just start to ask yourself. If you are numbed out, if you have disconnected yourself from feelings because feelings at some point in your life was costly for you, then this is about reestablishing a new connection with your body. You're not in that same danger that you ever were before. Now you're in a different place, and learning how to hear what your body needs. And these are simple ways you can do it. If you feel the urge to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Some people will wait for hours. Don't do that. That is you not being in harmony with your body. If you are hungry, traders a lot of times do this. They won't eat like the whole day. Like, I get that our digestive system sometimes can interrupt us cognitively, but you don't want to get into the habit of that, because ultimately your body's got to work in harmony with your brain. Being in a position to take some time off for you to digest your food should not be a problem. Everybody's strategy is different, but you have to set your trading up to be a trading style that's also going to work with the fact that you are not a robot and that you are a human being. And the human being will need to drink water, will need to have nourishment, will need to digest food, will need to take bio breaks. We'll need to have exercise. We'll need to have daylight, as Huberman teaches us about the first part of the day. You guys need to have sleep, right? All of these are part and parcel of being able to bring your best self to the market. You're up against the smartest people in the world. It's the most competitive game in the world. You guys don't want to be like rocking in, off McDonald's and no sleep and, ignoring your body's needs for an 8-hour day. It's just not going to be good for you in the long run. All right. I think I talked about everything. What I do want to speak to, because I do have to shut it down because I have clients today, is I just want to share. Did I share this already? I think I already did, actually, but I'm going to share it again. I have a small group coaching, and I really would love to see those who haven't done it yet. Dale, good to have you here. I'm glad you're here. And Sabia gave me a pink hand waving. I wave back to you, Sabia. I'm glad you're here. Well, I think we had a lot of new people in the room. I'm glad you're all here. I do this almost every Thursday, guys. I usually do it closer to 7, 8 o'clock at night, Eastern time. But I couldn't do that today. But next week, it should be at a normal time. This is my acceleration group. I just put that link in the chat box, guys. This starts April 18th. I would love to have you guys consider it. It's limited to only 10 seats. It's my third iteration. We've done this. This will be my third one. One of the things that I do want to speak to that I'm very proud of, because it was pretty special, is this amazing testimonial that I got from we had participants in the last one. Let me just see here. Do I have it? Acceleration group. Yeah, I just wanted to read one of the testimonials because it was just such a fantastic one. So this was getting coached by Kim over a 6-week period was such a big help to my trading. He feels psychology is 80% of the battle, and in trading, it ultimately comes down to you versus you. Kim pointed me in the right direction to gain control of myself and tame my overthinking brain, which was really getting in the way of my trading. I now feel more on track in obtaining consistent profitability. I have other testimonials too, guys. If you go to that page and you can just see if it serves you. I only want you to do it if you think it's going to serve you, but I do believe it will, because I've seen the results so far from the previous participants. All right, Josephine, glad you're here. Excited to get to know you more, Josephine. Glad the info is helpful. Marjorie, this time is better for European traders, though. Well, okay, Marjorie, I hear that, and I'll do the best I can, but I'm glad that this worked out, especially with your time zone. I get that. All right, Eric said traders have addictions. Would be interested to know the percentage of addictive versus not addictive personality types. Seen a lot of Wolf of Wall Street shenanigans. You know what, Eric? Like, on one hand, I hear you. On one hand, I kind of get what you're saying. I'm glad you found me too, Josephine, and I'm excited to get to know you more. But here's the thing, Eric. I just want to say addiction is everywhere. It's not just traders. There is so many people struggling with addiction. And here's the thing, guys. I really want you to start to retrain your mind. This is not about addiction. Our culture likes to focus on addiction. Our culture doesn't face what's really this is really about. Everybody is distracted. Oh, it's addiction, addiction, addiction. No, what happens? What's happening? What happened, past tense, to the majority of our society, the majority of traders, the majority of people in office politics, like in sports, like the all of us have addictions, but the addiction isn't what we want to be looking at as much as what happened to us that is having us all have so much discomfort and pain that we choose to numb ourselves instead of learn how to cope and heal that pain. So yes, I get it about traders having a lot of addiction, but I'm telling you, it's everywhere today. All right. Good, Josephine. I'm so glad to hear you traded better today. That is so good to hear with just one short conversation. Good news. That's what happens when we clear, right? We need to clear. We need to get things off our chest. All right. I focused on what the mark was telling me instead of what I wanted it to do or hoped it would do. Good job, you. That's it, sister. Listen, and everybody here, you want the market to do what you want. I get it. That's not the way reality works. So be with the truth of what the market's telling you. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be what you want sometimes, damn it. And I want you guys to be like, that sucks, and then get over it, okay? All right. I'm glad. Oh, Tina, you're so sweet. Thank you. All right. I better shut down or I'll be late to my client appointment. I think you guys are awesome. I hope everybody comes back next Thursday. Marcerie, I hear you. But remember, they're recorded and these play on my YouTube channel. So you can always watch them. All right. Hopefully everybody does their homework and starts to be nicer to themselves. Okay. I'm sending you guys so much aloha. We say ahui ho in Hawaii, which means until